Welcome back to the podcast, Mr. Renaldo Lawrence.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's so exciting for me to be here, and I really appreciate you asking me back. Thank you.
Most definitely. It's great seeing you just stay consistent with life happening with different things, but taking the time every day to encourage people and to give them a word and sharing it Instagram, Facebook every day.
Yeah, well, man, I was fortunate enough that growing up, I had parents and grandparents who spoke to me every day and spoke life into me and spoke greatness into me and spoke, everything that they wanted me to materialize as. So it is, who am I not to speak
Right.
word to somebody else's life? Who am I? So
Yeah.
that's sort of like my mission, to do that every single day.
That's a great
Mhm.
that's a great mantra. And I love that statement. And just to reintroduce you to the audience or for any new listeners, who do you say you are?
So my name is Renaldo Lawrence. I am, well, let me put it like this: the things that I do, not who I am, but the things that I do. I'm an educator.
Mm.
I'm an author. I've just finished releasing a brand new book. It's called a tabletop book, Believe in You, a tabletop book of inspiration.
Mm.
That's one is for adults. I've also released recently another book. It's called Tommy, the Power of Love,
Mm.
which is for boys, and then Libby, A Journey to Self-Love, which is for girls.
Mm.
So all of those books talk um, greatness and talk believing in yourself into their respective audiences.
Mm.
So and they were words that came to me, and we just have so many people now who, when you see them, man, you see one face, but when they go home, you see a totally different face.
Mm.
The real face comes out.
Yeah.
And so many people suffering now. And I'm trying to work with some school systems to sort of get these books into the school systems. And as a matter of fact, please make sure you give me your address, and I'll throw two of them in the mail to you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
So come on,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, it's wild to think like things have evolved, but they've somewhat stayed the same because like being an encourager, staying in the school systems and doing what you're doing, and even seeing your new website and how you promoted it. When I saw it, I forgot if it was right when you launched it, and I was like, oh, I've got to share this. And every time, like that's my thing in wanting to highlight everyday people and people that I've gotten to meet, and
Mm.
being like, the artwork on this is like wild. It's like, man, this is beautiful. And being able to see that, and I think you might have something in the works. I saw the gentleman that's been your inspiration for doing your daily inspirations. And I'm like, keep going. Because
Yeah.
before that, I think you were troubleshooting a little bit with the camera. You're like, hey, I got this Canon. Don't know what to
Yes.
do with it, but I'm going to figure it
Yes.
out.
Yes. And I figured it out. I figured it out. I spent days and nights and nights and days up figuring it out. Um, and I love my camera. I love my camera. It is the way that I can communicate with the world. It is the way that I let people know how special they are. And you know how sometimes, man, you come into a situation where because I've been doing this for about 7 years now. And last year, when I got sick, I thought, okay, I'm going to stop this. And right before I got sick, I had a woman told me, she said, oh, I just stumbled across your word today. And she said, I just want to let you know that you saved me from taking my life.
Mm.
And I just thought, whoa, I don't want this much responsibility. But then I began to realize, man, that all of us fall short of the glory we need to get to.
Mm.
And so who am I not to share the word that is being given to me every day?
Yeah.
So that's why I do what I do. That's why
Wow.
I do what I do.
That's powerful. And
Mm.
I guess, would you mind sharing with me? We'll get back to the kids for sure. And I'm just curious to know, as you took the journey to discover your camera and knowing what to do with it and eventually falling in love with it, it's like you didn't have that. Did you, like, what was that process like? Like, can you kind of walk me through that?
Yeah, so the process was like I went into some serious debt to get the camera because I just knew that I needed to, excuse me, instead of just throwing stuff out there, I need to do it in a professional way.
Mhm.
I have two sort of missions. One of my missions is to try to help educate educators
Mm.
in using different software, different tools. So that's one side of what I do. And then the
Mhm.
other side is creating courses. And with my new book, the one that's called Believe in You,
Mhm.
Tabletop Book of Inspiration, I've created 18 different videos.
Mm.
Six of the videos are getting started, well, six of the videos are self-help videos, but
Mhm.
then, no, I said that wrong. Six of the videos are videos that help you find out how to help yourself.
Mhm.
And then the other videos are videos to help you get started in your life's journey.
Mm.
And those come free with the book.
Yeah.
So I would just, anybody who purchased a book, I would just throw them down and they go, there's one, two, there's, like I said, there's about 18, I think.
Mhm.
And my daughter's on two of them who sometimes have suffered with a little mental health. And she talks about how she gets through her day.
Mm.
I mean, I've continually seen kids, man, and who I teach who are suffering and they are just, they just don't know where to go. And COVID has done a lot of injustices with our kids,
Mm.
in the way that they're able to communicate because they have missed out on being around people
Yeah.
and being able to communicate in an effective way has
Right.
really COVID has really hurt them. And also the usually when kids are a certain age, they start acting certain ways.
Right.
But these
Right.
kids are like a year or two behind in the way that they act because they've not socialized with anybody. So all the norms that we know, they don't know some of those norms. And so I would say, like a lot of kids, like say I'm teaching, for instance, a year eight, he might be halfway into year seven,
Right.
into growth, so it's a little difficult sometimes when you're talking to them because you expect them to be much more mature than what they actually are.
Mm.
So but that camera's been a blessing to me. And I went out, I got lights, I have like a full studio. I just turned my home into a studio,
I
whenever I
like
get
it.
some stuff, so it's for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I really, really enjoy it.
That's
Mm.
powerful. I think since we last spoke, I either got the microphone and a camera courtesy of a friend, so it looks a little cleaner.
Nice. Yes, 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 it does. It looks nice actually. And it's amazing how when you need to do something,
Mhm.
that if you think about it enough, things will appear and you start seeing those things around and those things suddenly start appearing in your life.
Mm.
And especially when I'm a prayer.
Mm.
I pray. I pray. And I just, and it's amazing how many things have popped up in my life.
Mhm.
And the thing, I look at it like this. All the things, I've had an operation recently where I um, was in the hospital and the doctor, I went in for a hernia operation and he clipped my bowel.
Ooh.
So I was out for, I would say, 6 months.
Oh,
I couldn't go to work. I lost 104 pounds.
jeez.
I recently had a car accident where I don't know, I just blacked out. And I thank God that I'm alive. And I
Mm.
thank God that I didn't kill anybody,
Mhm.
so doing some doctor things about that to try to find out what that is about. But all of these things that happened to me, they're happening to me for a reason.
Mm.
And he's trying to tell me something, and I'm trying to find out what that thing he's trying to tell me.
Mm.
And more I think about that thing he's trying to tell me, the more and more that I pray, and the more and more that I want to let people know that every single day is a gift that they have. I have a mom who's 97 with dementia,
Wow.
and she has been amazing because she doesn't, when I call sometimes she has no idea who I am.
Mm.
But I just remember her in her stronger years, and I remember all the things that she taught me, and I remember all the things that she did to make sure that her kids were okay, you
Mhm.
know. And I just remember her. The whole thing with her was as long as you got a job, as long as you're not in jail, and as
Mm.
long as you got a good name, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? That was her thing. And lo and behold, all of my brothers and sisters have three of us, well, three brothers, three sisters. All of us have great careers. You know, even one of my brothers is a cop. You know, and
Mm.
it's been a blessing. You know, and she has been a blessing. And I don't know, man. I've just been. Let me tell you something. I've just been fortunate, and I
Right.
just want people to understand that when things happen to them, they're happening for a reason.
Mm.
And if you stop concentrating on the negative and
Mm.
look for the positive, there's always a message there.
Yeah.
And it's your job to try to find that message.
Right.
It's your job to try to seek out and find what that message is trying to tell you. Because
Mm.
there is a message there, you
Right.
know.
I like
Yeah.
that. I guess I'm curious, when you pray or before and after you pray, how do you act or how do you move?
Well, the first thing that I do is I praise his name. I don't ask for stuff.
Mm.
Don't ask for stuff. I am praising the glory that is him. And then the second thing I do when I do pray and I want to ask for things, I want whatever he gives me, I want to use it in his name. I want to use it to make sure that I'm glorifying his name and to glorify and to help other people with it. Because I don't, none of the stuff, so I've got it, so what?
Mm.
What am I going to do with it? And that's the key to me. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
And being able to share the greatness that is him, but also being able to tell people just how amazing they are. People don't realize and how amazing they are.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things that people tend to do that's just it just fascinates me is that people sit around and watch YouTube and watch LeBron James living his life, while Michael Jordan living their life, and they're sitting there just wishing
Mm.
instead of getting off their butts and get out and then do one thing today, one thing tomorrow, one thing the next day, and start a snowball rolling
Yeah.
to live dreams that they want to live, you know. And that was one thing that I think my grandfather said to me. He said, you know, my mother said to me, she said, you know what, you can watch as much video, whatever you want, but
Mm.
until you start doing something yourself, so what?
Right.
Just start, you know. Yeah. So and that's why I try to teach my kids in school. You know, you can always, I had heroes. Dr. J was my hero,
Hmm.
but Dr. J wasn't going to give me any money. Dr. J wasn't going to make my life any better. I could just use him as a role model to see how I should act, you
Right.
know, and I use him as, you know, a role model in order to how I would live my life, you know,
Yeah.
but I had to do stuff myself.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I think I'd heard something similar from my dad. And now I'm able to see the positive in it and not look at it as, okay, just mad I can't watch TV or I
Yeah.
can't do this. It's like it felt like it was robbing me of something, but it's like I was robbing myself of my life essentially. And
Yeah.
that it may seem difficult, and it's even in doing this podcast, it's not meant to take anything away from anyone, but just to remind people it's like you
Just to
have
remind.
more, you have a lot more in you than you realize. And it's like allowing yourself to like speak freely, not even thinking, oh, this is gonna do this or this is gonna do that. It's like, no, like just remind yourself to talk to yourself and talk to other people and allow other people to talk about you in a positive way to where it's like, oh, okay, like I didn't get chastised today. I didn't get ridiculed for a moment.
Yeah.
I actually was acknowledged and appreciated. And it's
Yeah.
like that's what life is about. And I think community and neighborhoods and environments.
Yeah. And that you help somebody else along the way. That's the
Yeah.
whole, that you help somebody else along the way, you know, and because I think that that's the essence. I don't think, you know, even back to when the cavemen, cave women were around, they only survived because they helped each other.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, and I remember my next door neighbor could tear my behind up if I did something wrong. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And
Right.
it was community.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you know that's the kind of thing that when I'm in school, I try to foster. You know, in my classes, I try to foster a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of self-love. You know, and I always start off when I start my day with my kids when we first come in at the
Mm.
beginning of the year. I refuse to teach anything. The first thing all of them have to do is they have to tell me their name,
Mm,
They have to tell me their hobbies, their brothers and sisters, and they have to tell me what they want to do in life.
mm,
And then what I'd use that with is I tend to write it down and ask them to write it down for me.
mhm,
And I learned that. And then once we start lessons,
mhm,
and we have conversations, and I walk around, I
mm,
use those pieces of information that they've given me about themselves,
mhm,
talk life into them,
mm.
to make whatever I'm trying to teach them relate to what they're like. For
Yeah.
instance, like a young man plays guitar in the church, then we're going to bring up something about him playing guitar in the church and how he can relate to what he's doing now.
Mm.
So it's something trying to make them understand that they're special, they're gifted, they're blessed,
Yeah.
but they got to believe it. It makes no sense if I'm just talking it into them. If they don't believe it, then what's the
Right.
purpose? They've got to believe it.
And
Mm.
I like that. That's inspiring. And a book I've been circling back to and looking at is called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And one of the titles in it, or one of the subheadings that it highlights, is learning to do away with shame. And just so many men grow up with this shame where it's like, okay, if you're shamed into doing something, you can be kind of controlled, or it's like, okay, if I do enough of the right things, then somebody can't call my name out, like call me out of my name, or someone can't say I didn't do this or I didn't do that. But it's like, in operating in shame, guilt, the need to be right, or I guess sign language, as Kevin Samuels coined it. It's like you you kind of miss the mark without even trying, or like you miss the mark because you're aiming at the wrong thing, to where it's like, if your aim is true, you're not operating in shame, you're not operating out of guilt, you operate in truth. And that whatever the consequences may be,
Mm-hmm.
you have an opportunity to deal with them properly and not always be fearful of, okay, everything's going to fall apart. Things are
Yeah.
going to, like, I'm going to lose everything that I've earned up to this point. Everything's just going to blow up. They're going to find out about me. The imposter syndrome is going to come out, all of that. But it's like, in how the author details it, and he goes chapter by chapter, reiterating things, giving different examples, citing different people he's maybe worked with, using different names to keep their anonymity. It's reaffirming, it's like
Yeah.
addressing, like getting down
Yeah.
to the symptom and the cause and the problem, and being like, okay, here's an ideology that you've been given. Many people have been given this ideology. You're not bad for believing this or thinking that this would work, but here's why it's been ineffective in the way that it's been.
Yeah.
And trying to do a book review on it and remind myself what it is and share it with other people. It's encouraging me to see how you've gone using like your camera project, and how
Mm.
I've started the podcast and like reading Dennis Kimbro's book before, and looking at like, okay, how can I use this for myself, but also give it to someone else to be like, hey, like there's this here, like it's going to piss you off when you first read the first chapter. And, but it's like, consider what it's saying, and maybe don't look at it as like it's a personal attack to you, because I was mad when I first got it, but a year, 2 years later, when I can revisit it and I've done the work to reach out to save people, reach out to a counselor, do the personal work and grow step by step by step by step, it's like, oh, like I don't feel any kind of offense. Like I'm not jaded, I'm not upset. I'm the same things that had control of me before don't.
Mm.
And it's
Mm.
like, okay, like I did learn something from this. It's not just a lesson I've got to repeat because I've got to like flagellate myself to be like, you got to memorize this, you got to memorize this, you got to be a different man, you got to be a better man, you got to be this, you can't be nice. It's like, okay, like I'm not going to be nice milk toast, but it's like I can still be a good man. And being
Yep.
a good man is more of the opposite of being the bad guy or the bad boy, so to speak. But like being nice in the way that he describes it isn't that. Like you don't want to do away with your masculinity, so to speak, or like the things about you that make you dangerous or hard. It's like you want to be the danger in a way, but you want to have that sense of meekness where your danger is under control, so that you have the ability to protect the people that matter to you and people that can't even protect themselves. But knowing when and where to use that, I think, is what I got from the book and other things that have kind of informed me. And it's like, okay, like now that I've done away with a little bit of my bias and my apprehension, I can understand this for what it's intended, I believe.
Interesting. What's really interesting about this conversation is that as a man, matter of fact, or if you're a woman,
Mhm.
everything is built like a house. It's built on stones and bricks.
Mhm.
And the more stones and brick that you lay, the more firm your house becomes.
Mhm.
So the more things you do to reaffirm who you are, the
Mhm.
stronger your sense of self
Yeah.
becomes. So if you build a complete house,
Yeah.
when a little wind comes, someone say something about you, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. It
Right.
doesn't matter because you can withstand that wind
Yeah.
because you built a strong foundation. And that's how I think now I'm at the point in my life where my foundation is so strong that it doesn't matter what you say
Mhm.
because I built up the underlying bricks, the underlying work that I
Right.
know from. And I think a lot of that, man, is, I do something and have been doing it for, as a matter of fact, it is the basis of a lot of my books.
Mhm.
I, at night, write
Mhm.
down things that I've done amazing.
Mhm.
First thing I do in the morning when I get up is I read those three things.
Mhm.
That sets me off on an extremely positive note. So instead of picking up my phone,
Yeah.
I read the three things that I've written down and I think about the three things that I've written down. And all of those things helps me to understand who I am as a man,
Mhm.
helps me to understand my sort of mission in life and where I'm going and what I'm trying to do. And it's very important to me. And like I said, I've done it for the last 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Amazing because you have to have some sort of foundation for what you're trying to build. You
Right.
have, and a lot of these kids these days they want instant gratification.
Mhm.
Grandfather once said to me, "There is no instant gratification in anything.
Mhm.
Anything that is worthwhile is worth waiting for.
Yeah.
You put in the work slowly shows up, and it might not look. It's like you reading that book. It might not
Mhm.
look great right now,
Right.
later on down the line." And he told me one other thing, man, my grandfather. He said to me, you know, it's not the person you are today. It is the person you're working to becoming tomorrow.
Mhm.
It is not who you are today, it's the person you're working toward becoming. And that has really stuck with me because a lot of the things that I've done, you know, were not what I would say went toward that initially. And now I really understand. The older you get, the more you realize.
Mhm.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you know what's crazy?
What's that?
Um, when I got up this morning, and I was walking around, had a shower and everything, and I was coming downstairs, and I picked up my phone on the way downstairs.
Mhm.
We had a 10-year-old girl who got murdered here today, 10 years old. And I live in a town in Woking in England. It is
Mhm.
very small. And the thing that I realized is that, man, life is so fragile. Life is so fragile. And the time you take to complain about what you're going to eat today, the time you take to complain about who left the tube off the toothpaste, the time it takes for you to complain about having a flat tire,
Yeah.
your life will be over.
Yeah.
And then you're going to complain about. So you need to take every single day and use it, and
Yeah.
use. But don't ever forget to help your fellow man along the way. Don't
Right.
ever, because that's what we're here for.
Mhm.
That's what we're here for. So yeah, sorry. I
No,
just,
no, no. There's no apology needed.
it means so much to me because without people in my life, like a man named Coach Oscar Dason, who was my first coach, really, without people like that who went out of their way to make sure that I was okay,
Mhm.
to make sure that I took this path instead of that path,
Mhm.
make sure that I went to school, to make sure that if I didn't go to school, then I couldn't play basketball.
Mhm.
I couldn't, so people like that, to let me know that and to confirm or give me some sort of affirmation to what I was doing was right, you know. And I think anybody who's listening to the sound of my voice right now, there is somebody who's telling you that you're doing the right thing. But you got to hear them. You got to hear them. And you got to let down your guard sometime and listen to what people are saying. I think I had a post out today and it said something like, I'm going to paraphrase here, but it says something like, mind your own business. Mind your own business.
Mhm.
And you will be surprised at the comfort that you will feel when you mind your own business because you're not in anybody else's business. You're doing what you need to do.
Right.
So the mantra, mind your own business. And I read this book a little while ago, and I think the name of the book was The 1 Minute Monkey. The monkey meets a 1 minute manager, something like that.
Mm.
And the whole premises of the book was you as an individual, you constantly letting people put their problems on you. And when they put their problems on you, they feel a sense of relief because they can go out and do what they want to do. But here you are, with a problem. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So it's trying not to take other people's problems and take them as your own. It's letting them have their own problems and deal with their own problems, especially with kids.
Mhm.
Letting them have their own problems, deal with the problem. You can be in the background, but you can't rescue everybody all the time.
Yep.
You can't.
That makes so much sense. And I think that theme of boundaries as I've seen it and it was introduced to me, it's like there's a book on boundaries written by two doctors, especially taking the Christian approach to it and saying, okay, here's biblical evidence where boundaries are important because so many Christian people feel that, oh, if I apply boundaries or if I don't save the people that are downtrodden or the people that need help at my own expense, I'm not doing God's will, so to speak. And it's like that couldn't be further from the truth. It's just like if you keep being visited by a problem that's dealing with someone else, it's like their problems have become yours. And it's like you're stressing out about they should be doing. It's like maybe you should just stop doing what you're doing and allow them to not harm themselves, but to actually recognize that what they're doing has consequences without it constantly being swept away, whisked away. It's like, nope, you can't fall, you can't hurt yourself, you can't bruise this, you can't do that. And it's like someone kind of grows up in this fragile state. And then I think that's part of the thing where the younger generations or the kids today, they've been coddled or we've been coddled in a way where it's that like parents, I think, do the best that they can in general. And I think um, some things get addressed or some things are not able to get addressed. And when when they can't be confronted truthfully, maybe people don't have the language. Everybody's not a counselor, but people would like to go to like the barbershop or a beauty salon or whatever is like the social group, the church, where people aren't formally trained to actually address a problem. It's like we can mask it, shift it, or move it away. It's that dealing with the fear and like maybe the poor mindset where it's that the thing that you fear so much isn't really real. It's like the monster under the bed isn't there. Like allow yourself to cut the lights on, have somebody else come and check and see. It's like, hey, it's not
Which can be hard sometimes, which
right,
can be
right,
very, very difficult sometimes to get up and turn that light on.
right.
But I think the other time, to sort of piggyback on what you just said, sometimes people don't have the time, especially if you're a one parent family with a lot of different kids. You let a lot of things slide because
Yeah,
you're worn out, you're tired. So
right.
it can in the long run it will hurt you.
Yeah.
In the long run it will hurt you, and I remember. And not saying that my parents did all the right things, especially my mom, but I remember having to walk to get my switch,
Mm.
having to go and walk to that tree, get a
Yeah.
switch. and then walk back and think about the behind cutting I was going to get. And right now, even now today, when I sit down with my mom, and even at 97, and I'm going home, I'm leaving here, I'm leaving England Wednesday to go
Mhm.
home. I've been home in about a year now. I'm going to see my mom, and my daughter's going with me
Mm.
because you never know.
Yeah.
And I just remember, man, those whippings were the best thing that ever happened to me because they taught me boundaries,
Yeah.
taught me balance, and they taught me what was right from wrong, you know.
Mm.
And I mean, I've never touched my kids. I was lucky enough in my kids that I could just give them a look,
Mm.
you know, and that look would be enough to let them know what to do. But
Right.
man, mom told my behind up, and rightfully so.
Right.
Right. So, you know. But yeah, so it's different. It really is
Yeah.
different.
I
Different
get
time.
right. I guess some people like I think the thing with the world being so connected, it seems like everyone has an opinion, and I guess everyone wants their opinion to be validated. So it's like I think sometimes things get confused and conflated, but like two things can be true at the same time, where it's that like there's stern disciplines that have helped many of us grow up, and there's
Mhm.
also been abuse where people have gone overboard, either from being tired, being mistreated so much worse themselves. But it's that like being able to have conversations like this and just seeing so many more platforms with so many people that look differently, that think differently, but they all kind of drive to uncover something that's like a strategy or even a word of encouragement that can help. Like the lady said, hey, you helped me like reconsider. And it's like we never know how it's going to affect the person, but it's like being able to
Never know.
have this massive information, but actually being able to select things or be able to seek out things that are there. And if you can't find it, being able to create that thing and that eventually helping someone out. It's like, man, I needed this. So it's that some people seem to be operating in the case of the world's falling apart, the sky's falling, and other people are building the foundations, laying down those rocks and saying, okay, if things do fall apart, here's somewhere we can go. Here's how we can put things back together and not just cower and say, everything's coming to an end. So let's just hunker down and say, or just live it up and say, forget it, like on to
I'm a
the
rock.
next one.
I'm a rock builder. I'm a
Mm.
rock. I,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
I'm a rock builder, and you know, it's interesting because when you think about you and you think about me and you think about everybody on this planet, how will they know that you've been here?
Mm.
How will they know? And I think because I was born, I think I have something to say.
Mm.
And that's why I've written my books,
Yeah.
because I want to help society. And I think I have enough to say that means a lot, enough to try to help somebody else along their way. And anybody who's been on this planet 50 plus years, you
Mhm.
got a lot. You've learned a lot.
Yeah.
You've learned a lot. So you have a lot to say. And I think the difference between me and a lot of other people is I've just decided to write it down.
Mm.
I've just decided to share my knowledge with people, you know, and I am hoping that more people, you know, will just, even if it's not a book, just keep a diary and
Yeah.
write the thoughts down so people would know who you are.
Yeah.
Because if you were great enough to be born, you were great enough to have your voice shout to the world.
Yeah. I think
Mm.
on that note, I think it's also encouraging to me because I want to say somebody had suggested it, and I was thinking that I'm gonna drive up and celebrate my parents. It's their 45th wedding anniversary, and one of the things I was thinking, it's like, oh yeah, I've got this mobile recorder that I bought in like trying to get the equipment and things like that, and I wrote down in my journal today like one of 10 goals that make time to record something with mom and dad, like a piece of their story, a part of their history, if they have words that they want to say when they're cutting a cake or something like that. Even if it's brief, just record it, capture it, and we can maybe decide what to do later. But it's that you don't
You would
know.
have done it.
Yeah. Say that again.
You would have done it.
Yeah.
You will have that recording, you
Right.
know, and nobody can ever take that from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the thing that I think about as I do this and I look at my life and I'm reflecting and like you said, that 7 year period was my introduction to Breathe University and yourself, Eric Thomas. I think I'd learned of him a few years before, but I actually decided to take a leap, get involved and join the community and say, okay, like what would it be like to be around other people that are trying to improve themselves, put themselves in the space where they can have other people that think alike or think differently, that have different disciplines and that want a little bit more out of life to like put a stronger effort into whatever it is that they decide to do.
Mhm.
And as I was talking to my younger brother earlier, and I had to step back for a moment because I felt like the conversation was going left. And I was like, okay, I just need to hang up because I don't want to say something that I'm going to regret. And I'm feeling emotional. And as I was making suggestions for a task, one of the things I was realizing and asking him, I'm like, yeah, he's not in a better position than I'm in. And I kind of recognize what my parents were maybe trying to do and saying, okay, hey, let me introduce you to this family friend, that family friend, because it's like if I'm all the way where I'm at, but I don't know anybody in town or I don't know I can't rely on anyone or anyone can't rely on me, whether they be direct family, extended family, friends that I've met, random acquaintances and things like that. It's like, what am I really doing? Like when it comes to like the simplest of tasks. And the thought went through my mind and it's like, no, that's not really you, but it's pointing to something that you can work on. Where I was like, man, I'm not the best at having family relationships or like knowing this is this family member and this family member. It's like I'm sure I've got hundreds of cousins that I've never really met before or felt the need to like stay in contact with because it's like it seems it's a lot of work and it's just not something that I could do. And instead of feeling shameful about it and keeping that moment throughout my whole day, I was like, no, it is what it is, but it's here. Like you thought about this person, maybe have them on the podcast and like give them the opportunity to have a platform and see if there's anything there. Because then it's like, instead of carrying this weight of you have to do this, it's like, you don't have to do anything. Don't become a slave to these ideas that you think this is how things have to be. If they haven't been that way to this point, and yet if I haven't been able to make that effort,
Yeah.
I don't need to wear that weight around my neck and walk
No.
out into the ocean and be like, I've got to do this. I've got to, it's like, no, no, you don't. Maybe that's what your parents were able to do. And that can be captured in a recording, maybe, but it's like, and even if it's private, it's like, at least I have it. But
Exactly.
it's like, I had to remind myself from that interaction with my younger brother. It's like, stop judging him with my past and my mistakes or my shortcomings, thinking, hey, I made this mistake, don't make it too. But it's like there's no bridge there or there's no runway to say, here's how things are laid out to where you can follow it easily. And it's like if it's not there, like stop feeling bad about it not being there and stop chastising to say, you didn't do this, you should be doing it's like the shoulds and coulds and would and it's like just stop, man, leave it, just leave it, like stop carrying it.
Then you're gone tomorrow.
Yep.
Then you're gone tomorrow.
And what was the
And
last conversation?
what was the last conversation? And
Right.
what was the last conversation? And that's why, man, it behooves all of us that when we leave somebody, we try to leave them with words of grace,
Yeah.
words of encouragement. And I think it's important. It's interesting you mentioned Breathe University because I'm still in contact with Carl at the moment now. He's
Nice.
written a new book, and so we sort of like sharing books and whatever. And I just sent his kids some books.
Nice.
And the one thing that I've learned from Carl uh, is patience. And the one thing I've learned from Carl is that everybody grows and everybody need to grow.
Mm.
And the other thing that I've learned from him is that, and he's younger than I am,
Mm.
but I learned from him that it doesn't matter unless you get started.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you get started. So what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so anybody out there listening, man, who've been thinking about, writing that book, anybody who's been thinking about calling up that auntie or aunt, call them, man, because you just never know.
Right.
You just you just never ever know. So but it's interesting. It's just, life is an interesting thing. It really is, it
That's
really is.
awesome. Yeah. But I guess like you were saying earlier, it'll be a fun trip with you and your daughter coming back stateside.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing because I'll get a chance to explain to her, and she's been there, but I'll get a
Hmm.
chance to walk around with just me and her and show her the streets I used to walk, and
Mm.
let her meet some people that I've known. And with some people I've known now, these people are 70, 80 years old. One of the things I've been really blessed with, man, is my sister. I have a sister called Shirley,
Hmm.
and Shirley has been amazing in terms of she's had me where every time I go home,
Mm.
make sure I see the elders.
Mm.
And lo and behold, unbelievably, people have died.
Mm.
And I've been so thankful that she's taken me to different places,
Yeah.
made me see these people, So it's been a blessing. It's been a
Uh,
blessing.
yeah. I guess that kind of speaks to recognizing and appreciating people for the role that they play, because it's like without your sister, that wouldn't have crossed your mind to do that.
No, it wouldn't have. And if it would have crossed my mind, I never would have done it.
Right.
But she forced me to, and I'm so pleased that she forced me to, you know,
Mm.
because a lot of these people, I was growing up when they were, you know, around my age. I was growing up and they, and so I know them, but they've, a lot of them are very old now. And even my brother, he took me the last time I was home, he took me out to my grandparents where they used to live. And although the house is not there, the memories just came flooding back. And a lot of the things that he told me,
Mm.
because I was raised on a farm, and so I had to get up at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised. I choose to be on the farm with my grandparents a lot of the time because my mom and dad had another house, but I wanted to be my grandparents.
Mm.
So we get up in the morning and butcher hogs and do all that kind of stuff. And, that's when I learned a lot of stuff, sitting on the porch with my grandfather. He was always so much. And the thing that I loved about my grandfather, like most elderly gentlemen, they used to dress to the nines. I don't care where they were
Mm.
going or
Yeah.
just sitting around the house. They used to, and he just showed me, how you dress. And he just showed me how you're supposed to act.
Right.
So, my grandfather played a huge part in my life,
Mm.
so it was nice. And
Yeah.
I just think that a lot of us, whenever we get the opportunity to deal with the youngsters that we see today, we need to do that.
Mm.
I'm in my school.
Hmm.
Um, I am probably the only, I would say, black individual in my school of about 1,600 kids. We have other people of color, but I'm the only, what I would say, black. And most of them are Somalian or different races.
Hmm.
And these young boys who are primarily white, I am what they think they will meet in every black person. So it's important for me
That's
for whatever
beautiful.
I do, for whatever I do, to show them who I am
Yeah.
and what we're really like. And I
Mm.
take that very seriously. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but I've been placed there to do that. I've been placed there because that is where need is,
Yeah.
you know. And, I take it very seriously, and it's great to have the opportunity to do that, you
Yeah.
know. So, but it's great. It's great. It's great.
Man, that's awesome.
I love my life. I love my life. I got trouble just like everybody else, but I choose to look on the bright side of life.
Right.
I don't choose
Man.
to. I don't choose to moan.
Well, I mean, I think that's what makes so many of the things that we enjoy enjoyable, because it's like people have created music through pain, but it's like they still made the music anyways. And it's like they like, you think about someone like Michael Jackson and the stories that come out about the abuse that he suffered, and his whole family, his sister and brothers and things like that. But it's like they still showed up and they put on a smile or something. But like, not saying to perform for people, but like trying to find the silver lining and the bright side. And even in doing this, it's funny. I have the nickname of teacher growing up, and I was always thinking, like, as I'm doing engineering and looking at, like, okay, I may not know what's next or what's tomorrow, but the position where I'm at right now, I feel good about it. I feel useful, and I feel like my role matters. And in doing the podcast, it almost feels like it's a nice way to be able to stitch my personal history, but also history of other people, and see
Yeah.
how people interact or just how they move in the world. And seeing someone, I'm blanking on her name right now, but she does a great job of highlighting different Black people, and I'm like, that's Black history right there, because it's that, it's not just repeating old history, MLK, Rosa Parks, which are great people, but it's like
You know what you mean? Yeah.
yeah, she's touching on current people and letting people know, hey, this person did this, hey, this person did that, whether it's like 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago. And I reached out to her. We may be able to do the podcast, but it's like seeing people take action with the things that they don't see versus the ones that sit back, maybe sulk or feel bad about somebody should really do something. And it's like, you might be that person that add your bit to this thing called life, to this melting pot that we have. And it's like, it can get better. Like your seasoning might be just that thing that makes the dish hit. And
Well,
it's like, be encouraged.
can I also say to you,
Yes, sir.
anybody who's listening, stop looking for heroes.
Yeah.
Look in your own house.
Mm.
Stop looking for heroes outside of your house. Look inside of your own house.
Yeah.
Because there are people inside of your own house who are doing things beyond the call of duty, and they're doing things for you.
Mm.
Stop trying to find heroes outside of your house and
Yeah.
enjoy heroes that you see every single day.
I
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Stop searching for heroes, because inside of your house you have some amazing heroes.
Yeah.
You have people who maybe have barely been able to make it through the day in terms of, in a job. You have
Mm.
people who sacrifice for you. It's all right to admire somebody else, but
Yeah.
look at the heroes that are inside of your house.
Yeah.
They're there.
And
Trust me.
yeah. And you really got to look, because it's like it, and even having conversations and like learning how to talk to people and getting to learn how to talk to myself, it's that you have an ability to uncover something that was always there.
Yep. Yep. And you know what is interesting? Interesting, because I always tell my kids in school, I said, I want you to do me a favor today, because I want you to go home
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to tell your mom or dad or guardian to sit down and make them a cup of tea. Just make them a cup of tea. Let them get off of their feet and make them a cup of tea, and just say thank you for everything that you do for me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for everything that you do for me. And I think that's one of the things that if we start the kids off at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that happens here is that in the States, for the most part, people say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. That took me a hard, because here they don't really say that in England. They don't say yes, sir, yes, ma'am. So, and even me with people who are younger than me, I still say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, just, because it's the way I was raised,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And I just think, man, that, as an individual, respect is everything. Respect is everything,
Yeah.
and it doesn't take anything to give somebody respect.
Mm.
It doesn't take anything. So, but yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So
I think that might be a good place to leave it. What do you think?
I think, yeah, that's cool.
Awesome.
But can I just say one other thing?
Yes, sir.
I'll say this in all seriousness. If you're within the sound of my voice, stop searching for heroes. Look inside of your house, because there are people there that are doing things for you that you won't believe the state of this world. There are people who don't have anybody, and they're out here by themselves, and you've got somebody. So make them a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Make them a Coca-Cola. Sit down and just say thank you, and I appreciate you. It takes you 2 seconds to do. but my God, what it will mean to the person who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Like you or like me here, I appreciate you. And I appreciate you for asking me to come back on here. And I follow you. Trust me, I might not holler at you, but I follow you. I love what you're doing. And I love,
Appreciate it.
as a man, I love what you're doing. And I love that you're allowing other people to voice their opinions. And, and one of the things I love about you is that you listen. You listen. You listen and you talk when needed, and you listen. And because a lot of people don't listen, a lot of people will do podcasts and whatever they do, but all they're doing is talking. Why do you have the guests on? All you're doing is talking. You know what I mean? I love your opinion, but I thought you brought him or her on to talk. Well, anyway, you know what I mean? But
Right.
yes. But thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're very
Please,
welcome.
please, please do this for me.
Mhm.
Send me your email address.
Mhm.
I'll send you the 2 books.
Mhm.
I'll also send you, it won't be, the videos won't be for the 2 books that I send you, but I'll send you all the videos that I've done.
Okay.
And I'll send you them as a Google link. So you have to download, and then you can unzip them, right?
Yeah. I can do
Yeah,
that.
and unzip them. And it goes from, like I said, the first batch is, I think, 1 to 12. And then the second batch, I think, is the other 6, I think it is. Okay.
Gotcha.
So, and then listen to them and give me your opinion.
For sure. And before I let you go, let people know where they can get your books and be on the lookout for everything that, or just things that you're
Yeah.
working on, things that are in the to come.
So you can find all of my books at tabletopinspiration.com. You can find me over at on Instagram. Just search for Renaldo Lawrence, and you can find me on any of the platforms.
Awesome.
Yeah. But thank you so much, man. I so appreciate you.
You're very welcome.